Catherine Williams, 34, awakens from a coma to find that the husband who swore to love her disappeared 2 weeks ago, and that he is now in the arms of the nurse who was supposed to care for her. "He came yesterday, but it wasn't to see her," whispers someone next to her. While battling terminal cancer, Catherine realizes that something much darker is lurking around her hospital room. And when Dr. Peterson walks in with a tablet in his hands and a pale face, she understands that the betrayal was just the beginning of the real horror. During the wake of a 10-year-old girl who mysteriously died, the nurse whispers something in her colleague's ear that made Catherine Williams' blood run cold in her veins. Hooked up to life support at the university hospital, battling an aggressive cancer that doctors discovered at an advanced stage, Catherine awakens from an induced coma to hear words that would break any woman's heart. Her husband showed up here yesterday, but it wasn't to see her. She came to pick up the young nurse Jessica from the morning shift. Catherine felt the world come crashing down. Her eyes widened almost automatically, fixing on the white ceiling of the room. Her chest rose and fell quickly, as if the air was missing. The surrounding machines began to beep louder, detecting his agitation. The chair next to the bed, which was supposed to be occupied by David, her husband of 8 years, had been empty for 2 weeks. The bitter taste in the mouth intensified. It was the metallic taste that came with chemotherapy, now mixed with something even worse, the taste of betrayal. Catherine tried to swallow, but her throat was dry as sandpaper. Every breath ached, not only because of the weak lungs, but because of the devastating weight of those words. "No, it can't be," he murmured in a hoarse, barely audible voice. Tears began to flow down his pale face, mixing with the cold sweat that welled up on his forehead. Catherine tried to move, but the tubes and wires connected to her body kept her trapped. It was like being suffocated inside. The older nurse, Margaret, who had not realized that Catherine was awake, continued whispering to her younger colleague. "And you know what's worse? She's pregnant. Jessica is expecting a child from him." Catherine's heart raced. The beats were so strong that she could hear each one echoing in her ears, a deafening drum inside her chest. Pregnant. The word hammered in his mind like an axe. While she was there, fighting for her life, destroyed by chemotherapy, David had not only abandoned her, but was building a new family with the 24-year-old nurse who was supposed to be taking care of her. "What do you mean pregnant?" the younger nurse asked, adjusting the drip of Catherine's serum without realizing she was conscious. 3 months already. "Jessica told me yesterday. He said that he will file for divorce as soon as the situation is resolved." Catherine closed her eyes tightly, trying to block the words, but they kept coming like stabs. "What a horrible situation," the young nurse commented. "The poor thing doesn't even know that her husband already has another life." "That's right. And look at her there suffering, thinking that he's working too hard not to come to visit her. If she knew that he was building a crib for someone else's child—" "My God," Catherine whispered, bringing her trembling hand to her chest. "How could he do this to me?" The movement of Catherine's hand made the nurses realize that she was awake. Margaret immediately turned pale. "Catherine, you're awake. How long has it been?" "Enough," Catherine replied in a choked voice, trying to sit up on the bed. "Enough to know that my husband cheated on me with my nurse. Enough to know that they are waiting for me to die to be happy together." The two nurses looked at each other, clearly embarrassed. The younger one lowered her eyes, fiddling nervously with the stethoscope. "Catherine, we didn't want you to find out like that," Margaret tried to explain. "And how should I find out? Reading in the newspaper? Receiving an invitation to their wedding?" The sarcasm in Catherine's voice was charged with a pain so deep that it cut through the air in the room. She watched the two women, noticing that there was pity in their eyes. Feather. That was what she had become, an object of pity. "Do you know how long ago?" "Catherine, maybe it's better not—" "Answer," he shouted, making the machines beep even louder. "Do you know how long ago?" Margaret sighed heavily. "Since she started working here, 2 months ago." 2 months, Catherine repeated, as if testing the weight of words. 2 months he's been living a lie. 2 months he comes here pretending to care about me, but he's building a new family. The young nurse, clearly uncomfortable, tried to change the subject. "Catherine, you need to calm down. Your stress level—" "My stress level?" Catherine laughed bitterly. "My husband cheated on me with my nurse. She's pregnant, and you want me to worry about stress." It was at this exact moment that Dr. Samuel Peterson entered the room with a tablet in his hands and a grim expression on his face. His eyes, normally gentle and encouraging, carried a different weight. He looked at the nurses with a piercing gaze. "Margaret, Sarah, can you excuse us, please?" The two left quickly, clearly relieved to escape the awkward situation. Dr. Peterson closed the door behind them and approached Catherine's bed. Catherine immediately realized that there was much more behind his expression than sympathy for the betrayal discovered. There was something more serious, more disturbing. "Catherine," he said quietly, approaching the bed, "we need to talk. There are things you need to know about your treatment." His tone was not that of a doctor giving bad news about the disease. It was something more serious, more disturbing. Catherine felt a chill run down her spine, a shiver that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room. "Doctor, I just found out about David and Jessica," he managed to say between sobs. "He abandoned me here to die." Dr. Peterson closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering the courage to speak. When she opened them again, there was a mixture of anger and compassion in her gaze that Catherine had never seen before. "Catherine, I have reason to believe that there is much more going on here than a simple betrayal," he said, clutching the tablet with a tightness that made his knuckles turn white. "And everything I'm going to show you can shock you in a way I can't even imagine." Catherine felt her stomach plummet. How could anything be worse than discovering that the man she loved, for whom she had sacrificed everything, was cheating on her because she was battling a deadly disease? "Doctor, what kind of thing can be worse than that?" Dr. Peterson looked directly into her eyes, and Catherine saw something that made her shiver. Fear. Genuine fear in the eyes of an experienced doctor. "Catherine, I believe someone is trying to hasten your death." Catherine tried to sit up on the bed, ignoring the pain that ran through her weakened body like blades of ice. Every move was a monumental effort, but the adrenaline rush through her veins kept her awake and alert. Dr. Peterson moved closer, pulling a chair to her eye level, his face charged with a seriousness she had never seen before. "Doctor, what do you mean by that?" he asked in a choked voice, wiping away the tears that still flowed down his pale cheeks. "What kind of thing can be worse than finding out that my husband cheated on me with my own nurse? How can anyone be trying to hasten my death?" Samuel Peterson took a deep breath, running his hand through his gray hair. He was a 45-year-old man, experienced, who had seen it all in his 20 years of oncological medicine. He had witnessed miracles and tragedies, hope and despair, but what he was about to reveal was something that deeply disturbed him, something that made him question everything he believed about human nature. "Catherine, in the last couple of months I've been observing some irregularities in their treatment," he began, choosing his words carefully as if each one were a bomb waiting to explode. "Things that didn't make medical sense. Standards that contradicted all my experience." "What kind of irregularities?" she asked, feeling her stomach tighten as if someone was clenching a fist inside her. Dr. Peterson adjusted his glasses and looked at the tablet in his hands. "Your recovery rates didn't match the medications you were getting." It was as if there was a counterforce working against the treatment. At times it felt like you were getting substances that were making your condition worse rather than better. Catherine widened her eyes, feeling as if the floor was opening up under the bed. "What do you mean, doctor?" "I don't understand. Are you saying that someone was sabotaging my treatment?" "Initially, I thought it might be an atypical reaction to the chemotherapy protocol," Dr. Peterson continued, his voice becoming deeper. "But then I started to notice a very specific pattern. Always after certain visits, his condition deteriorated inexplicably." Dr. Peterson turned on the tablet and showed her a series of graphs and numbers that looked like a roller coaster of horror. The lines went up and down erratically, but there was a clear pattern for those who knew where to look. "Look here, Catherine. These are your exams for the last 3 months. Look at this spike here." He pointed to a red line that shot up. "And this other one here. Always after David's visits. Always on Mondays after he came here on Sunday nights." Catherine studied the charts, trying to understand what she was seeing. She wasn't a doctor, but she didn't have to be to realize that something was wrong. "Very wrong. You're saying that—" Catherine couldn't finish the sentence. The words stuck in my throat like stones. "I'm saying that I began to suspect that someone was sabotaging your treatment, Catherine, and so 2 weeks ago I made a decision that may have saved his life." "What decision?" Dr. Peterson leaned forward, lowering his voice as if he were sharing a dangerous secret. "I installed hidden cameras in this room." The silence that followed was suffocating. Catherine felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. The machines kept beeping, but now the sound sounded louder, more threatening, like a funeral bell ringing in the distance. "Cameras?" he muttered, trying to process the information. "Why? How?" "Because I was sure something was happening, but I needed proof. As a doctor, I cannot make accusations without solid evidence. But as a human being, I couldn't stand by and watch you languish without knowing why." Dr. Peterson paused, watching Catherine's reaction. She was pale as paper, her eyes wide, her hands shaking slightly. "Catherine, I need you to prepare yourself psychologically for what I'm going to show you. What these cameras have captured will shock you in a way I can't even imagine." "Doctor," Catherine said in a firm voice, surprising herself with her determination, "after finding out that my husband cheated on me when I was dying of cancer, and that someone might be trying to kill me, I think I can handle anything." Dr. Peterson nodded slowly. "Okay, but before I show you the recordings, I need you to understand the full context. You need to understand how we got here." "What do you mean?" "I want to say that this story started much earlier than you think, and to understand everything, I need to tell you how your wedding was really seen by outsiders watching." Catherine frowned. "What do you mean?" "Catherine, do you remember how you met David? How was the beginning of your relationship?" "Of course I remember. It was in a cafe near the university. He was studying law. I was a teacher." "Why this question?" Dr. Peterson leaned back in his chair, as if preparing for a long conversation. "Because I need you to analyze this memory with different eyes. I need you to remember not only what happened, but how you felt, the choices you made, the sacrifices you agreed to make. And doctor, I don't understand what you're getting at." "Catherine, when a doctor investigates a disease, he doesn't just look at the current symptoms. He investigates the history, looks for patterns, tries to understand when and how the disease began. What I'm going to show you in the recordings is the symptom. But the disease, Catherine, the disease started much longer." Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. "You're saying that David always—" "I can't say that. But I can tell you that, as an outside observer, some things in your marriage have always caught my attention. The way you arrived at appointments alone, the way he never asked questions about his treatment, the way you always had excuses for his absence. He was working a lot." "Catherine," Dr. Peterson interrupted her gently, "you need to stop protecting him, especially now." She was silent for a long moment, processing the doctor's words. Slowly, as if she were waking up from a very long dream, she began to see her marriage through different eyes. "Doctor, do you think he never loved me?" "I think you need to see the recordings before we draw any conclusions. But Catherine, I want you to know that regardless of what we find out about the past, what matters now is your survival. And for that I need your full strength." Catherine nodded, feeling a strange determination growing inside her. It was as if, upon discovering David's betrayal, something inside her had broken, but now it was rebuilding stronger. "Doctor, show me the recordings. I need to know the truth. All of it." Dr. Peterson picked up the tablet again, but before turning it on, he looked once more at Catherine. "Are you absolutely sure? Because once you see that, there's no turning back. There's no way to pretend you don't know. I'm sure if someone is trying to kill me, I need to know who it is and why. And if the man I've loved for 8 years is capable of that." She paused, taking a deep breath. "So I need to know what kind of person I really was married to." "Okay," Dr. Peterson said, turning on the tablet. "But remember, you are stronger than you think. And she is not alone in this fight. But to understand how Catherine got to this devastating moment, you need to go back in time and know the story behind that marriage that seemed solid." The fatigue began in a subtle way. Catherine woke up in the morning feeling as if she had not slept. It must be the stress of work, he thought, forcing a smile when David asked if everything was okay. "You've been a little pale lately," he remarked one Monday morning, as he straightened his tie in front of the mirror. "Maybe I should take a few days off." "I can't. The school needs me," Catherine replied, feeling a pang in her stomach. The pain had become constant in recent weeks. David came over and kissed her forehead. "So at least schedule a doctor, okay? Just to make sure everything is okay." At that moment, Catherine still saw genuine care in her husband's eyes. She still believed that he really cared about her. Initial tests showed nothing conclusive, It could just be fatigue, the GP said. But we will do some more specific tests. While waiting for the results, Catherine noticed that David began to become more distant. He would come home late from work, say that he had many new cases, that the partners were demanding more from him. How were the exams? He asked one night, not taking his eyes off his laptop. Still waiting for the results, Catherine replied, sitting on the couch, watching her husband. David, are you okay? Seems different. I'm just stressed about work, love. No big deal. But it was no big deal. Catherine could tell in the details. David no longer kissed her when he left in the morning. He didn't ask about his day anymore. When she tried to hug him in bed, he said he was tired. It was on a rainy Tuesday that Dr. Peterson called with the results. Catherine was alone at home. David had left early for an important meeting. Catherine, I need you to come to the hospital. Today, if possible. Is it serious, doctor? I prefer to talk in person. The diagnosis came like a punch in the stomach. Ovarian cancer, advanced stage. The doctor's words seemed to come from far away, as if she was listening through a tunnel. How much time do I have? He asked in a trembling voice. With proper treatment we can fight. But it needs to start immediately. Catherine called David, trembling. David, I need to talk to you. It is urgent. I'm in an important meeting, love. Can I call later? It's about the exams. It's serious. The silence on the other end of the line lasted an eternity. Okay, I'll finish here and go home. When David arrived, Catherine was sitting at the kitchen table holding the exam papers. She told everything. The diagnosis, the need to start treatment immediately, the chances of cure. David stood in the doorway for a long moment. Her expression changed from concern to something Catherine couldn't identify. Ira? Disappointment? Anger? Fear? Cancer, he repeated as if testing the word. How much will the treatment cost? David, I can die and you're worried about money. That's not it, Catherine. It's just that our financial situation is not the best. I just joined the firm. I can't ask for permission now. Catherine felt as if she had received a slap in the face. I worked 8 years to pay for his studies. I gave up my dreams, my career. And now that I need you... It's not like that. David approached and hugged her, but the gesture seemed forced. Let's find a way. Let's fight together. But David's actions contradicted his words. He began to work even longer hours, arriving home only when Catherine was already asleep. At medical appointments, I always had an excuse not to accompany her. Where's your husband? Dr. Peterson asked in the 3rd chemotherapy session. Work, Catherine replied, trying to disguise her hurt. He's been very busy lately. It was during these solitary sessions that Catherine met Jessica, a young blonde nurse with a sweet smile and blue eyes. Jessica was attentive, affectionate, always asked how Catherine was feeling. Didn't your husband come again today? Jessica asked one afternoon as she adjusted the chemotherapy drip. No, he has a hard time dealing with hospitals, Catherine lied, protecting David even though she was hurt. I see. It must be hard for him to see you like that. Catherine nodded, but inside she wondered if that was really what kept David away, or if there was something else. The answer came a few weeks later, when Catherine decided to surprise her husband. She had felt a little better after the last session and thought about showing up at his office with her favorite snack. He left for an external meeting, said the receptionist. I don't know what time it will come back. Catherine decided to wait for him in the parking lot. That's when he saw David leaving a nearby restaurant, laughing loudly, accompanied by a woman. When the woman turned, Catherine felt her blood run cold. It was Jessica. David had his arm around her waist, pulled her close as he did with Catherine in the early days of dating. Jessica was radiant, touching her belly protectively. Catherine was paralyzed, watching the scene from inside the car. She saw when David kissed Jessica on the forehead tenderly. She saw when he put his hand on her belly. He saw when the two got into his car and drove away together. That night, when David got home, Catherine was waiting in the living room. How was the work? He asked, testing him, rushed. Too many meetings, he replied without looking her in the eye. What kind of meetings? Catherine, I'm tired. Can we talk tomorrow? She couldn't hold it anymore. I saw you with Jessica today. David froze. He stood with his back to her for a long moment before turning slowly. Catherine, she's pregnant, right? That's why you don't want to have children with me anymore. That's why you disappeared from my life. It's not what you're thinking, isn't it? So explain it to me, David. Explain to me why my nurse is pregnant with my husband while I'm dying of cancer." David took a deep breath. When he looked at her, there was no more pretense in his eyes. There was coldness. "I couldn't handle it, Catherine. With the disease, with the possibility of losing you." Jessica, she appeared at a difficult time. "Difficult for whom, David? For me, who have cancer, or for you, who have to take care of a sick wife?" "For both." His response was like a stab. Catherine realized at that moment that the man for whom she had sacrificed everything no longer existed. Or maybe it never existed. "I want you to leave," she said with a calmness that surprised her. "Catherine, we can talk about it. Get out, David. Now." He left that night and never returned. Catherine continued the treatment alone. Each session more difficult than the last, not only because of the disease, but because of the loneliness that consumed her. It was Dr. Peterson who suggested that she be hospitalized when her condition worsened. "Here you will have 24-hour care," he explained, "and the staff is excellent." Catherine accepted, unaware that one of the nurses on this excellent team was the very woman who had destroyed her marriage. "Dr. Peterson," Catherine said in a trembling voice, squeezing the sheets between her fingers, "show me these recordings. I need to see it." Samuel hesitated for a moment, noting Catherine's frail state. His eyes were sunken, his skin as white as paper, but there was a fierce determination in his gaze that he recognized. It was the same determination that made her fight cancer every day. "Catherine, what you're going to see can be very disturbing. Are you sure you're ready?" "Doctor, I found out that my husband cheated on me with my nurse while I was dying. Do you think it can be worse than that?" Dr. Peterson connected the tablet to the monitor on the TV in the room. "Unfortunately, it could be much worse." The first images showed David entering the room during the early hours of the morning when Catherine was sedated. He would look around, checking that no one was around, then approach the dripping serum. "What's he doing?" Catherine whispered, feeling her heart race. "Keep watching." On the screen, David took a small syringe from his jacket pocket and injected something into the serum. The liquid was clear, almost imperceptible. Then he put the syringe away and left the room as if nothing had happened. "My God," Catherine put her hand to her mouth in horror. "Here's was he poisoning me?" "There's more," Dr. Peterson said somberly, fast-forwarding the recording. The next scene showed Jessica entering the room on the morning shift. But instead of checking Catherine's vital signs as she should, she went directly to the computer where the medical records were recorded. "She's altering my results," Catherine noted, watching Jessica type quickly. Why would she do that? To mask what David was doing. See the schedules. Whenever he came here at dawn, Jessica would alter his exams to make them look normal. Catherine felt nausea growing in her stomach. It wasn't just betrayal. It was an assassination attempt. How long has this been going on? From the recordings, at least 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Catherine shouted, making the machines beep louder. They've been trying to kill me for 3 weeks and no one has noticed. I noticed, Dr. Peterson said quietly. That's why I installed the cameras. His sudden worsening made no medical sense. It was as if something was sabotaging his treatment systematically. Catherine began to cry, but it was not tears of sadness. It was pure anger, a hatred she had never felt before in her life. That son of a bitch, he muttered through gritted teeth. He didn't even have the courage to ask for a divorce. He preferred to kill me slowly to be free. Catherine, there's one more thing you need to know. What do you mean more? What can be worse than finding out that my husband and my nurse are trying to murder me? Dr. Peterson showed one last recording. This time, David and Jessica were in the hospital hallway, thinking they were alone. Their conversation was captured by the audio of the security camera. How long do you think it will take longer? Jessica asked, running her hand over her already protruding belly. Not much. The doctor said she's deteriorating rapidly, David replied, kissing Jessica's neck. That's good. I'm looking forward to getting out of this and starting our life together. Me too, love. When Catherine dies, we'll have it all. The house, the life insurance, everything. Catherine felt as if she had received an electric shock. Life insurance? David took out a $2 million insurance policy in his name 6 months ago, Dr. Peterson explained. Soon after his diagnosis. $2 million. Catherine repeated incredulously. He planned this from the beginning. In the recording, the conversation continued. What if someone is suspicious? Jessica asked. No one will suspect it. She has terminal cancer. It's the most natural thing in the world for her to die. And with you taking care of it, we have complete control over what happens. Are you sure that the substances you're putting in the serum won't leave traces? I have a chemist friend who assured me they are compounds that dissolve completely in the body. It will look like the cancer has naturally accelerated. Catherine was trembling with anger. They planned everything. Every detail. I'm going to call the police now, Dr. Peterson said, picking up the phone. No, Catherine interrupted him. Not yet. What do you mean, right? Catherine, they tried to kill you, I know. But if we call the police now, they can claim they had no intention of killing me. That they were just experimental drugs or something. What are you suggesting? Catherine wiped away her tears and looked straight into the doctor's eyes. There was a cold determination in his gaze that made him retreat a step. I want to catch them in the act. I want irrefutable evidence, and I want them to confess everything. Catherine, this is dangerous. You're too weak. Doctor, I died inside when I discovered the betrayal. Now I've found out that they literally want to kill me. I have nothing left to lose. Dr. Peterson observed the transformation in the patient. The frail and broken woman of a few minutes ago had turned into someone with a thirst for justice. What do you have in mind? Today is Friday. David always comes here on weekends when there is less movement. We'll let him come, but this time we'll be prepared. Prepared how? Catherine smiled for the first time in weeks, but it wasn't a sweet smile. It was the smile of someone who had decided to fight to the end. We will give them exactly what they want. Let's make them think I'm dying. And when they confess everything, thinking there's nothing left to fear, we'll show them that they've messed with the wrong person. Dr. Peterson was silent for a long moment. As a doctor, his obligation was to protect Catherine's life, but as a human being, he understood her need for justice. Okay, he said finally, but we do it my way, with total safety for you. Thank you, doctor. For the first time in months, I feel like I have a chance to survive this. Outside the room, Jessica walked down the hallway, checking out the patients' rooms. She had no idea that her hoax had been discovered. In her mind, she was just a few more days away from getting everything she wanted. David, the life insurance fortune, and total freedom. What she didn't know was that Catherine Williams had decided to fight for her life in a way she never imagined possible. Saturday arrived with a tense stillness in the hospital. Dr. Peterson had arranged everything carefully. The cameras were strategically positioned, including one hidden in the bouquet of artificial flowers next to Catherine's bed. In addition, he had installed an ultra-sensitive microphone under his pillow. Are you sure about that, Catherine? He asked for the last time, checking the equipment that would simulate weak vital signs. We can still call the police and end this now. No, doctor. I want them to give themselves completely. I want to hear from their mouths the confession of everything they did to me. Catherine was lying in bed, made up to look even paler and sicker. Dr. Peterson had dimmed the lighting in the room and adjusted the machines to emit slower, erratic beeps simulating a critical state. Remember, he said, the moment I give the signal, you stop pretending and security comes in. We are not going to take unnecessary risks. It was almost 10 o'clock at night when David appeared in the hallway. Unlike the other times, he was not alone. Jessica walked beside him, holding a small bag. They came together, Dr. Peterson whispered to Catherine through the hidden headset. They are getting closer. Catherine closed her eyes and controlled her breathing, pretending to be in serious condition. I heard the footsteps approaching the room. Are you sure it won't be a problem for us to go in together? Jessica asked softly. There is no one around here at this time. And besides, you're a nurse. You can say that you came to check on the patient. The door opened slowly. Catherine kept her eyes closed, but she could feel the presence of the two approaching the bed. Wow, Jessica whispered. She's really bad. Look how pale it is. Great, David replied coldly. It means it's working. Catherine felt a pang of pain in her chest as she heard the coldness in the voice of the man she once loved, but he forced himself to remain calm. How much did you bring today? David asked. Enough to speed things up nicely, Jessica replied, opening her bag. My contact said that with this dosage it doesn't go beyond next week. Perfect. I can't stand this farce of a worried husband anymore. Catherine needed all her willpower not to open her eyes and confront them at that moment. David, Jessica said in a honeyed voice, after this is all over, we're going to be so happy. Our family will get everything it deserves. I know, love. And to think that she still believes that I love her. Pathetic. You've always been a good actor. Jessica laughed softly. Remember when she found out about us? He almost managed to convince you that it was just a moment of weakness. Please, I never loved you, Catherine, David said directly to her, thinking he was unconscious. You were just an investment. It paid for my studies, gave me stability when I needed it. Now it's time to get the feedback. Catherine felt tears form in her closed eyes, but not of sadness. It was pure anger. And the best thing, Jessica continued, is that no one will ever suspect it. Terminal cancer, natural deterioration. Dr. Peterson doesn't even suspect anything. That idiot, David laughed. If he knew that his dearest nurse is my accomplice. Jessica, you were brilliant to get this job here. It wasn't difficult. When you told me about her diagnosis, I applied immediately. He said he had experience with cancer patients. And there is, David laughed wickedly, experience in killing them. Catherine almost lost control at that moment. Their level of cruelty surpassed anything she had imagined. Okay, Jessica said, let's get this over with. The longer we stay here, the greater the risk. Catherine heard the sound of a syringe being prepared. It was now or never. You know what's funny? Jessica said as she approached the serum. She really believed that I cared about her. She always thanked me for the affection, for the care. If she knew that every smile of mine was fake, stop talking and do it right away, David said impatiently. I want her to die this week. Calm down, my love. This needs to be done carefully. It was at that moment that Catherine opened her eyes sharply and sat up on the bed. You don't need any more care, he said in a strong, clear voice. David and Jessica froze. The syringe fell from Jessica's hand, crashing to the floor. Catherine, David stammered. You what? Catherine asked, climbing out of bed more quickly than she had shown in weeks. Did they come to kill me? Did they come to hasten my death so they could keep the insurance money? Jessica was pale as a ghost. No, it's not what it seems. Isn't that what it seems? Catherine laughed bitterly. Jessica, I heard you talking about dosage, about killing me in a week. David, I heard you calling me pathetic, saying you never loved me. David tried to get closer. Catherine, let me explain. Stay there, Catherine cried. Don't you dare come near me. It was at this point that Dr. Peterson entered the room, followed by 2 security guards and a police officer. We recorded everything, Dr. Peterson announced, holding up a tablet. Attempted murder, conspiracy, falsification of medical documents. You are in prison. Jessica began to cry desperately. No, I have a baby. I can't go to prison. I should have thought about this before I tried to murder a patient, the officer said, putting handcuffs on her. David, for his part, tried to keep his composure. This will come to nothing. These are just speculations. Speculations? Catherine laughed. David, you confessed everything. I have audio and video recordings of you planning my death, bringing poison to the hospital, falsifying my medical records. Reality finally hit David. His knees weakened and he almost fell. Catherine, please, we can solve it. Resolve. Catherine approached him, looking him straight in the eye. David, you tried to kill me. While I was battling cancer, trusting that you loved me, you were literally poisoning me. There is nothing to solve. I breaded. When you got sick, I didn't know how to cope, so you decided to kill me. Is that your excuse? The policeman approached David. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. While reading David's rights, Catherine turned to Jessica, who was crying uncontrollably. Jessica, she said quietly, you took care of me for months. I trusted you. I thanked you every day. Catherine, I'm sorry. I didn't want to. You didn't want what? Kill me? Steal my husband? Keep my money? Jessica couldn't answer. She just cried as she was led away by security guards. When they left, Catherine was left alone with Dr. Peterson. Suddenly, all the adrenaline that had sustained her during the confrontation disappeared, and she sat heavily on the bed. It's over, she muttered. It's over, Dr. Peterson confirmed, sitting next to her. Catherine, you were incredibly brave. Doctor, I have a question. Of course, and what were they giving me? Was I really dying faster because of them? Dr. Peterson took a deep breath. Catherine, what they were injecting you with was a substance that accelerated the growth of cancer cells. If we hadn't found out, you probably wouldn't have survived another 2 weeks. Catherine closed her eyes and felt tears of relief run down her face. So they actually managed to almost kill me. But they didn't, Dr. Peterson said firmly. And now that we've removed you from this toxic environment, we can focus on your actual treatment. Catherine, you have a real chance of beating this disease. For the first time in months, Catherine smiled with true hope. Doctor, thank you for saving me, for believing in me, for giving me the strength to fight. Thank you, Catherine. You reminded me why I became a doctor.